sing the thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your thunder buddy and say these magic words.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Thunder Buddies podcast, Road Edition. We are literally on the road right now, and we apologize if the sound a little bit is coming through. We're gonna have to speak up on the mics today, boys.
Yeah, it's starting with you.
You can't hear me?
Not as good as I usually do.
Well,
I thought you were speaking in normal decibels coming in, so I was gonna scream.
Well, I'm not trying to say anything bad here, but I'm guessing my ears and Eric's ears might be a little bit better than Barry's at this point. I don't know. Maybe. Maybe.
Age. You know, at some point, I'm going to get tired of this and file an ageism suit.
Oh no.
Ageism in the work.
Oh no. Well, at least this isn't being recorded for evidence. All right. Well, we're leaving Dallas right now.
Leaving Dallas.
About to
on
hop
the LBJ.
About to hop on 35.
About to hop on 35. What's the most memorable moment of this trip for you guys? I think I know Barry's.
Most memorable
trip for me.
No, most memorable moment.
Most memorable moment.
Of what was a 4-day trip?
Well, I mean, yeah, Rick Carlisle.
Which
put me under the Spanish Inquisition. That would be it.
State your name and affiliation for the record.
Yeah. Do you swear to tell the truth? Let the record show. I think did he use that term? Let the record show.
He said, "I just want to make sure this is on the record."
Yeah. Well, close enough. That's close enough.
Yeah.
He's a trip. Rick Carlisle comes in last night after the game. I'm not going to talk about any of that physicality. I'm not going to talk about it. That's all he would talk about the day before.
It's not just that was all that he would talk about the day before. That's he made it a discussion in the series. If he doesn't come out and do that, it is not like when we're at shoot-around the next day with the Thunder, we're not really talking about the physicality much. I mean, we may have after last night's game if there was just because of those few skirmishes, but like Rick Carlisle is the main reason the physicality of this series has been highlighted so much. You want to know the truth, though? I mean, I don't think it's like way more physical than any other series I've covered. Like, think about those Thunder Grizzlies series.
Yeah, no.
There was just less like, okay, like the Anthony Morrow thing where he doesn't give the ball back to Mesri and he's trying to give it to the ref and then they yell at each other for a little while. Like, that's just a dumb little skirmish. As far as on-court, like, physical play, the Grizzlies series were more physical.
You're right.
You got Marcus Gasol, Zach Randolph, some of those guys.
Well, I don't recall that Grizzlies series as well as y'all do, but were there as many long stoppages to look at stuff as there are in this series? I think that's what's kind of brought that to like the forefront.
Probably not, because there's more of that now than ever before.
Yeah, but to me that's like, that's not physicality. That's just like hot-headedness, like some antics. But like if you're talking on-court physicality coming through the lane, like bodies hitting each other, like I'm sorry about it, but Marcus Gasol and Zach Randolph and Tony Allen and that whole Grizzlies team, like they play a more physical brand. They just don't really care as much about the other stuff. They don't get in people's faces. They don't have a Raymond Felton, going out there and like shouldering Steven Adams and elbowing him and like wanting to get in his face about it. You know what I mean?
Like the worst thing in the series probably was Durant's hit with 50 seconds left, if anything, in terms of physicality. I mean,
well, I wouldn't even say in terms of like a bad play, like you know what I mean, like poor form. He should, especially with 50 seconds left in a blowout, they had already won. That looked bad.
Yeah, but it was physical. He hit him in the head.
But I mean, there's a difference to me between like good physical basketball and just like whatever plays, basically.
Well, it's not a physical series too because the Mavericks can't keep up physically because they're battered to hell. You got Darren Williams limping off after less than 2 minutes. You got Salah Mejri limping off, and then
what happened to him? That was weird.
Hip flexor.
Yeah, they call it a hip flexor. It was like, but he wasn't even like in the play that he was hurt. You know what I mean? Like something happened away from the play, and then you just kind of looked over, and he was like,
I think
couldn't walk.
Yeah, I think it's something you tear or pull or something. I mean, it's not something it's not a contact injury. It's like I assume, I've never had one, but sounds like the same kind of thing as a pulled hamstring or something. Just something happens when you're moving or running.
That was strange.
But your physicality point's well made. The Thunder is more physical than the Mavericks this series, but only because of their physical prowess. Both teams, I think, are trying to be as physical as the other one. The Thunder's just more capable of it. They got bigger guys
apart.
And stronger guys and younger guys.
This is where Steven Adams his impact goes so much deeper than the box score.
Oh, yeah.
He just infuriates, like, everyone on the Mavericks and is literally, like, so calm about it.
Well, I was telling Barry, I think Steven Adams has mastered that move where he gets into, like, a tussle with somebody, and then, like, midway through the tussle, he does that thing where he just kind of goes limp so he doesn't look like the instigator. So, like, he'll just, like, let his long, like, spaghetti arm just, like, kind of, like, dangle out there. And then, like, Raymond Felton's like, I got this tentacle on me, basically. So now I got to, like, fight back. He's done that a couple times this year where he just, like, basically goes limp and, like, the blame just gets shifted to the other guy. And it works.
And I could just see Raymond Felton getting in these little brouhahas, whatever you want to call them, and just looking up and seeing Adams and that big mustache and that long hair and ponytail and just being like,
yeah.
Man, I want to sock this guy in the face right now.
Well, it's like with the DeMarcus Cousins incident, like Adams, like they got to a point to where like Adams didn't do anything and he just kind of like sat there and let DeMarcus Cousins drag him for a while.
But that's the funny thing about Adams. He makes it look like, oh, what's going on? DeMarcus Cousins is dragging me. Where it's like, well, you're really clipping his foot with your arm. Yeah, no, he's become a antagonist more like. Honestly, his rookie year, which is, everyone remembers his rookie year is the time he got, what did he get, like 6 people technicals, 3 people tossed. He gets Zach Randolph suspended for Game 7. Like, a lot of this stuff was going on his rookie year. But I thought back then it was just kind of like a naive physicality he played with. Because I remember him talking in his exit interview after his first year about, hey, before I got to the NBA, everyone's warning me, oh, it's so physical. You got to play physical. So he gets here thinking he's going to be like the least physical little rookie, and he ends up being like labeled as the most physical player. I think he was just running around whatever. Now, I mean, he's only 22, but I feel like he's like somewhat of like a veteran in this sense where he knows that it works when he ticks people off, that they get technicals, they get out of their game. So now I think he does it on purpose. He clips people's arms under his on rebounds. If you're going to try to play help defense, he'll like pull your arm back so you can't go. Like stuff the refs don't see. Andrew Bogut type stuff.
We were driving somewhere, I think Friday night to dinner, and we were listening to Dallas radio, and don't know the host, but whoever was hosting the show called Steven Adams. He didn't really claim to know, but he strikes me as a fake tough guy. We discussed it. He's the ultimate opposite of that. He's whatever the opposite of fake tough guy.
I think not the fake peacemaker.
What he does is he doesn't act tough. He gets in there and throws elbows and pushes people and instigates, but then he just steps back and gets a smile and puts his hands up and say, "Hey, mate." So it's a case of he's not trying to act tough. He's just fake tough guys sort of get in your face. And
he's a tough guy. I mean, he's just tough.
He's a tough guy. Golly, he showed. Did you see Eric? Did you see the video that AC showed us of Adams, the scrape across his collarbone?
Oh yeah.
Man, it looked like he'd been in a fight with a bobcat or something.
Yeah,
he calls himself Wolverine.
He called himself. Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's hilarious. He showed it's a fat gash right across his collarbone. I think it's from Zaza. But the sign of a tough guy, when you get punched or hit in the face like he has multiple times in his career, and you laugh. You sit there, you don't respond, you just kind of laugh about it. I mean, plus, his sister's about to win her 3rd gold medal as a Olympian in shot put. So that probably tells you something right there, too. All right, question. How many playoff games in Thunder history have Kevin Durant or Russell Westbrook not been the leading scorer?
It's a great question. I'm going to say
I can think of 2.
Immediately, I only thought of 1.
Was James Harden? He was the leading scorer, right?
I don't know. Was he?
What about the Reggie game?
That's the one I'm thinking
of. For sure.
surely Harden led them in some game.
I think he did. I think maybe
what about
game
Ibaka?
5
The
Spurs?
game Ibaka went 11 for 11, had 26 against the Spurs.
That's possible.
Game 4 in – I thought you knew the answer.
No, I don't.
Well, for crying out loud, I'll look it up. But Ibaka game 3 or 4 of 2012 would be a good one. Surely you'd think Harden did. But no, it's great. It's a great question, and here's what I like about it. I was telling Eric or somebody, anytime there's a Thunder game that Durant or Westbrook don't lead the team in scoring, I think it's really cool because that means all kinds of good things are happening.
Yeah, or else everyone's playing just terribly. I guess that could happen.
And for a good while last night, Serge was leading the offense in the beginning of the first quarter because Westbrook came out and he wasn't shooting very well. So, again, Serge resurgence. He's coming back and playing well. And then
man, what was going on all year? Do you think it seems like such a cop-out excuse, but, was he just conserving energy? Did he have this plan all along where it's like, I'm just going to play pretty, lazy, not really chase a bunch of shots?
I'm interested to see how he's going to come out in the San Antonio series, too, because the Mavs are different personnel.
No doubt, but regardless of different personnel, he's hitting jumpers. You know what I mean? That all year were open, but he was missing.
Yeah.
He's just going after shots that he wasn't all year, regardless of if he blocks them.
Yeah, he's made Dirk Nowitzki. We talked about this last night. He's made Dirk Nowitzki work extremely hard for the points he's got.
By the way, Dirk is such a baller. It just hasn't really mattered. He's still getting his.
Yeah. No, although I don't know that. I think that game took a lot out of Dirk. Well, almost like a fight, like a boxing match.
Yeah. Well, he was done.
He had 28, right?
27.
27. At one point, I remember looking up at the big screen, and I think they might have announced him 27 points, and he walked off, and they clapped. And I just looked at his head, and his hair was just soaked. And I was like, that dude just looked like he got out of a sauna, or just just a long day. He was soaked.
Somebody was at the free throw line, and it had become clear that the Thunder were going to win, and it was right before he got taken out. And he was standing right in front of the scorer's table where we were sitting. He was he looked like he was ghost white. Yeah, soaked in sweat, like you said, and he was bent over. He couldn't. It almost looked like he was having an asthma attack. and Rick, I think that's right around one time Rick Carlisle took him out. And it's a 37-year-old just trying to fight for his NBA life, basically, because he knows. I think it's pretty sure he's coming back next year, but he just doesn't get that many more chances at playoff glory. Not that he has any inclination that this season they're going to go on some deep run, but we talked about it, I think, on the last podcast. He's a legend.
Oh, I've gained a new appreciation for him just in this series. I remember in game 1 when he came to the podium and he sat down and he basically let all his body weight fall in the chair and he goes, oh, and he just clunked down in the chair and made this big old thud. Everybody was like, man, that was sudden. But
he's older than Kobe.
Yeah, he's older than Kobe. And granted, he's got better teammates around him than Kobe does. I think it almost seems like a more dignified ending to Dirk's.
Yeah, I'd say let's ask Barry Tremolo. Is Dirk's ending more dignified than Kobe?
Well, it's like Dirk is putting up 28 points against a real. Kobe put up 60 against Utah, but they were force feeding him shots. Dirk's doing it within the flow of the game, and he's getting 28 in a playoff game and busting his butt while everybody around him is injured. So to me, it's extremely impressive what he's done in this series.
Yeah,
I know what you think, Barry. Since we brought up Kobe.
Well, I love Dirk, and what I like. I think I'll write about him for tomorrow. Just the example that he can be for somebody like Durant. If Durant decides he wants to stay in Oklahoma City, your legacy doesn't have to be completely wrapped up in rings. Dirk Nowitzki's legacy, he got the title in 2011, and that was great. But his legacy goes beyond, finally winning a championship. Dirk Nowitzki is the face of the Mavs.
Mm-hmm.
Not just this team. He is Mr. Maverick for maybe not forever, But in the next, at least the length of his life, the next 30 or 40
Every time
years,
he comes back
there is not going to be another Mr. Maverick in Dirk Nowitzki's life. When he's 75 years old, he will be Mr. Maverick. And it's become a proud franchise. Mark Cuban, to his credit, has turned this into a proud franchise.
They've been over 500. Like what? How many straight years?
16 or 17.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
Missed the playoffs once. So, yeah, I mean, that's what
and if
Nowitzki's
they didn't win the
done.
ring in 11, it'd be the same thing.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But that was a topper. So I think that's just a fabulous example. I'm not saying it makes Durant want to stay in Oklahoma City, but it shows you what you can do if you stay in one place and become such a fabric of the team, of the franchise, of the city. And in Durant's case, the difference with Dirk is the fabric of an entire state.
And it could wind up being a parallel in the sense that Dirk in 2006, they went to the finals and they lost that heartbreaker to the Heat. And then he comes back, I guess, 5 years later and ends up winning the title and kind of solidifying his place
as
this
an
all-timer.
unlikely 3 seed out of the West. No. I mean, but to your point about like everyone's in the moment, I feel like is so wrapped up in rings, as you said. But then I feel like once there's time has separated it, that completely changes. I mentioned I was at that Kings reunion for their last game.
Right.
I mean, guys that didn't even make a finals. Mike Bibby's and Chris Webber's. I mean, they're coming back and getting standing ovations. Rick Adelman, just like monster ovations.
That's why Vlade Divac has a job.
Yeah.
You know? Because he's a legend.
Peja's working for them now.
Yeah.
And when you look at those guys, that's nothing compared to Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Dirk is fantastic. Dirk is fantastic.
How have we gotten this far without talking about Enes Kanter?
Well, I started to because I was I started to because I was asking about the only games in Thunder playoff history.
I found a Harden game.
Okay, was it Game 5 Spurs?
No, it was Game 4 Dallas in 2012. He goes 29 and Durant had 24. That was the series ender. They swept him 4-0. That's the famous game where I came up with a good headline.
Okay.
What was the headline?
Home, James.
Oh,
And guess what? The desk wouldn't use it. They didn't think that people would know enough.
Well, you got yours in last night.
Explain to me home, James.
Well, home, James, is a phrase that's been around for about 700 years, ever since the invention of the automobile. And it's just it's a catchphrase for basically telling your driver it's time to go.
Home, James.
Home. It's like you got it.
It's like Jeeves. It's like Jeeves. Like
Right.
it's like the American version.
So you're exactly right.
Oh my goodness, that is an accident and a half.
Yeah, we're passing some serious stuff, but so they didn't use it, and so then they go on and beat the Lakers in the semis, West semis. They go on and play San Antonio. It's 2-2 back Game 5 in San Antonio. Thunder's playing great, got a late lead. They're up 1 with about 30 seconds left. Shot clock's running out, and Harden hits a long three-pointer. Put them up 4, basically give them the victory. And I sent an email to the office. I said, home, James. We're using it this time.
That might be the biggest win in Thunder history.
Game
5 in San Antonio.
No doubt about it. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, okay, now I got a quick question on that trivia we had earlier. Remember when Westbrook gets hurt in the Rocket series and they play what? They would have played 9 more playoff games without Russ. Was Durant the leading scorer in all 9?
I think so, yeah. I'll look it up. You've inspired me to look it up. That's what I'm doing as we talk. But remember, that was a
I'm just saying Kevin Martin, one of the games might have been.
Yeah, I'll look.
Reggie,
I'll
young
look.
Reggie.
The Kevin Martin team, as Sam Presti would say.
But Enes Kanter last night, 28. I mean, on 13 shots in 24 minutes, 26 minutes.
The most impressive thing about Enes Kanter's game.
Let me guess, his ability to run the floor.
Running the floor.
I agree.
He's a 7-foot guy that can get out. The big play he had, the dunk on the fast break, he was under. It wasn't like he was out on the perimeter.
Which one are you talking about? The first half one?
No. This is the second half.
Okay, well, there was a layup. I think you're talking about. It was like a swooping.
He's inside, battling for the rebound. I don't think he got the rebound, and he runs the floor well enough that he can get out on the break and get there in time for Russell Westbrook, who excuse me, Westbrook waits on no man nor beast.
Yeah,
and Kanter got down there and got a pass from Russell for a layup,
which is funny because Kanter's not a fast guy. He's pretty slow. We've seen him defensively. I mean, like his footwork defensively is probably the worst in the league, and his footwork offensively is like probably the best. But he kind of stammers, but he has like no wasted movements. I feel like he like slices to the exact right point. I feel like he always can find an opening for his guys.
Well, he gets in a hurry. It always helps to get in a hurry.
Yeah, and he just senses opportunities for baskets. And whether that's just because he loves scoring so much, it doesn't matter because it helps the Thunder an incredible amount. And he's so, like, he might be the softest finisher on the entire team, guards included.
He does
Russell
lay it up there soft.
Like,
although Deion Waiters is vying for that title after last night. That one shot he made.
I don't think Deion Waiters is vying for that title.
Andre Robertson snatched the title from everyone last night.
Well, I'm talking about soft shooting, soft
shot. I'm talking about like
soft hands,
like soft touch,
soft
great touch around
putting the ball up on the rim where it gently falls in. That one ball of Waiters almost took a nap up there on the rim last night.
Oh yeah, and then he had the kiss in the game 3 off the glass.
Yeah, but I think Deion Waiters has shown us this season he's not the he doesn't have the greatest touch around the rim.
Okay,
a couple random shots don't include that. Kanter's reverse layup last night. He's like double clutch finger roll. Even the finish where I think it was David Lee just like shoves him in midair. He's like falling vertically down to the ground and he still puts it in.
Yeah.
And you know what? He gets banged around and he's durable. He hasn't missed a game this season.
Yeah, he's sturdy, man. I mean, he's probably got Steven Adams giving him a hard time if he comes to practice with any limp or anything. So, I mean, that helps. You got a guy next to you that's super
You guys
tough.
want a weird Enes Kanter story?
I love him. What is it?
Steven Adams told me this one. Steven Adams says he's like so. Oh, how to put this? He just like he never wants to bother anyone. He never wants to be an issue for anyone. And I guess one day he forgot deodorant at practice, and he didn't want to smell, so he put toothpaste under his armpits.
What?
And he came out and was like, "Hey, Steven, man. Hey, Steven, I got toothpaste under my armpits." And he was like, "What?" But I guess he's like, "Man, I really just didn't have deodorant. I don't want to smell." Seems kind of strange.
It does.
It's a little. No.
Now, maybe he invented something. Maybe you can market some sort of ointment that works on your teeth and under your arms both. It would help on packing for road trips.
That's true.
Jeez. Anthony, you brought up something good, I thought, on the way back last night. And I guess we've talked about this time and time before, but when does the narrative flip on Kanter? When does it turn?
I think it's starting to a little bit because...
And by the narrative, explain to the listener what the narrative is that they don't already know. They probably do.
Well, I mean, look, when he signed, a lot of it is his contract. He signs for max, basically. All people hear is max, even though they don't know that, or some people at least, don't formulate that $17 million next year. That's not the max. That's like, I mean, that contract basically slices like 30-40%.
Yeah, because the salary cap is going to go to.
People just hear, look, he's getting
92.
the max, and it became everything surrounding him became about his defensive issues in Utah, and his defensive issues that I think have gotten better, but still are they're a problem. They're why he doesn't play 30 minutes a night. That's why he's still coming off the bench. And then it kind of became the thing I never really understood is it was always, it's bad defense, which is obviously I agree with, and then it's empty stats. That's always been like, he just gets his numbers and catches his L, I believe. I think it was Trevor Booker said that. But the thing is, like, I mean, we talked about this, but, like, he's so important to the Thunder. But anyway, like, the narrative all season, I mean, even when he was in the six-man conversation, though he did get third, so a lot of guys voted for him, still surrounding him has been he's going to get played off the floor in the playoffs. He doesn't really help a winning team. He may put up a 20 and 12, but, like, doesn't help the Thunder, basically, has been the story a lot of the season. I think in this first round against Dallas, he's flipped some people's minds, like, wow, this guy's really improved. Like, he's trying defensively, and, like, he is making big plays in big moments. But I as far as winning a flip, I mean, he's got to do this against the Spurs or Warriors. This Thunder team has to do this against the Spurs and Warriors for people to kind of flip their whole narrative around the team and the organization.
And, like, I've been waiting for this all season almost, and I think I've asked Billy Donovan about this before, but the concept of imposing their will on a team as opposed to playing the way that another team wants to play. And we talked about this a little bit, but they're not playing that small ball as much anymore, if ever.
They shouldn't.
They're going with these bigs because these bigs are on a roll. It's like they're at a hot hand in Vegas or something. They're just playing, and they're playing with these guys that are in a groove right now. Serge, Steven Adams, Enes Kanter. I mean, they're killing people on the boards. Kanter's playing as well as he's played all season. They're all playing at their peak.
It's become the undertold identity of this team, which now, I mean, when anyone talks about the Thunder, it's KD and Russell, two-man game, hero ball, stars who can potentially just win you a game because they're so good. But the thing is, like, this has become a bruising team inside, led by a 22-year-old and a 23-year-old, and then now Serge Ibaka playing well. Like, they kill people on the glass. They've won every rebounding battle by double digits in the series. They were the best rebounding team in the past, 50 years this season. That is where their strength is. So when they play the Warriors, and I'm not saying they will play the Warriors. Obviously, they got to get by the Spurs. But if they do, I see no reason they should go small when the Warriors go small. As you said, they should just stay with their guys, play Kanter, Adams, and Ibaka, and hope that style of basketball can just beat up the Warriors on the glass.
You mentioned the narrative about this Thunder team. The thing that's really gotten popular in that last few weeks is the fourth quarter issues and the 2-on-5 idea. What's ironic about that is this is by far the most balanced Thunder team.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's the best Thunder team, but it's by far the most balanced. I mean, in the old days, Harden, Westbrook, Durant, Ibaka might, I think he averaged 9 points a game that first year and maybe 11. But sometimes the fifth leading scorer on the team would average 5 points a game. This is a team that's 6 in double figures last night.
Six in double figures by middle of the third quarter.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody getting garbage points. So, I mean, they got guys that can really help. Now, the issues about sharing the ball late, which is what didn't occur game 2, that's legit. But the Thunder's got a lot of weapons.
But I don't like when people talk about it like it's an all-game, every-game thing.
Right.
Sometimes they revert to it. But if you've been watching this team all season, I mean, no, like you said, they're as balanced as they've ever been, for sure. What we can kind of look ahead to San Antonio, in my opinion.
Well, you know what this reminds me of?
What?
This reminds me a lot of the 2012 Lakers series. Now, that Laker team was better than this Dallas team because it had Kobe. It had Gasol. Bynum, I don't think – that might have been the year he was hurt or something. I can't remember. They were good. They weren't really a threat. But if you remember, Thunder waxes them in Game 1. Game 2, Thunder beats them, but it was 77-75. They were lucky to win. They're just screwing around. And then they go out to L.A. The refs blew the whistle about 80 times against the Thunder. They lost Game 3. Then win Game 4 in L.A., win Game 5 back in Oklahoma City. That's what I see in this series with Dallas. The Thunder's just completely superior. Had one dud game, game 2, just a total aberration. But otherwise, it's just really a one-sided affair.
You mentioned it on the podcast the other day, but like, think about like, is there an advantage for the Mavericks at any position in this series?
Well,
I mean, you could argue Dirk against Serge, but like they're kind of playing straight up because Serge is really hitting his shots.
Yeah, Serge is playing great. You're right. I mean, look at the center advantage.
Yeah, it's Pachulia and
these guys.
Adri,
the whole city of Dallas is fired up about the Tunisian. On a night he gets 2 blocks and 5 rebounds, 2 points or something. The Thunder centers combined for 42 points and 13 rebounds.
There would be standing ovations in timeouts when they would get it to within 9.
Yeah, that's right.
You ready? The Thunder centers.
That's right.
42 points on 20 shots.
Yeah. 8 and 15 rebounds, I think.
8 and 6, 14 rebounds.
14 rebounds. Just, I mean,
on paper, you would say that Wesley Matthews would have the advantage at shooting guard if we're talking about advantages, but he's largely been a non-factor.
Well, and he's having to play Durant, so he can't even.
That's tough, man.
All right, you mentioned the balanced nature of this Thunder team. Let's go back to the last time they were in the playoffs. 2014, Game 6 against the Spurs. They start Westbrook and Jackson that night. Play Westbrook 44 minutes, Jackson 47. Durant plays 52, Ibaka plays 49. This obviously went to overtime. Perk is still starting at center, 21 minutes. 21 minutes, 0 points. Off the bench that night, Derek Fisher plays 33 minutes and guards Tim Duncan in the post. Scores 5 points. Nobody else scores a point on the team, so they had 5 guys score. Off the bench that night, Nick Collison 2 minutes, Jeremy Lamb 6 minutes, rookie Steven Adams 12. Your other options that didn't play: Thabo Sefolosha, Perry Jones, Caron Butler, Hasheem Thabeet.
I'm still trying to figure out how Derek Fisher got to be their primary post defender in crunch time.
It was on switches that the Spurs kept getting switches, but I mean, it's just imagery stuck in my mind.
Yeah.
Kind of like that Robertson air ball that me and Darnell were talking about. Imagery stuck in my mind. It's just like a major overtime like possession and like just small Derek Fisher just like forearm in Tim Duncan's back, just trying to battle Tim Duncan, and Duncan's just swooping in for like those line drive hooks that he has.
Yeah, I was at that game. I was up in the 300 level with Mike Sherman, our sports editor, and Derek Fisher gets switched on to Tim Duncan. I'm like, how does this keep happening? Like, I felt like I was going crazy. It's just unbelievable. He was doing his best. I mean, God bless him. What you got over there, Barry?
Oh, I'm still looking for points.
Look it up after the pod.
Well, you guys are talking. I'm talking whenever you guys give me an opening.
You have an opening, good sir.
All right. The balance. Here's what I like about the balance. The Thunder is at its best when Durant and Westbrook aren't both getting like 30. What'd they have last night? 25 and 19, 44. They had 44. This year they only averaged, 51?
28 and 23 around there.
So I think that's the lowest they've had in a while. I mean, what was it? Was it 2 years ago they averaged 57 or something? 30, or maybe it's 31, 32 and 23, 24. The Thunder's at its best when Durant and Westbrook are both in the 20s and other guys are, padding the total. Your Ibakas, your Kanters, your Waiters.
Adams had 14.
Adams. And the great thing about last night was the way everyone sort of picked up. Eric Thread mentioned this. Ibaka was good early. Waiters, at the end of the first quarter, had the 7 points and the assist for a 3.
And a block.
In a 10-0 run to end the quarter. Then Adams had a monster third quarter. He had 9 points in the third quarter, and then Kanter dominates the fourth. So if those guys can produce like that, and Durant and Westbrook will trust them, the Thunder's got something good going on there.
And to that point, Durant and Westbrook, I would believe, can trust them more now that they've seen them do it on this stage. When Enes Kanter has a 28-point night on the road in the first round, you probably trust him more on the road in the second round.
That's a good point.
Same with Dion Waiters. I mean, it ain't the Spurs they're playing, obviously, but it's still like a stage that hasn't been too big for their bench guys, which is important. All right, assist leaders in the playoffs. Guess. Numero uno. I got it in front of me this time.
Russell Westbrook. You mean the whole team?
No.
I mean the whole league?
The whole league.
It's got to be Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook, 47 assists in 4 games. Number 2.
Well, he's only played 3 games, so I'll say it won't be Chris Paul.
Number 2 is a guy who's played 4.
Yeah, so how
be Chris
about
Paul.
Kyle Lowry or George Hill?
Kyle Lowry, 29. So it's 47 to 29.
Wow.
Chris Paul has 25 in 3 games. I mean, Chris Paul's only averaging 8.3. Westbrook's averaging 11.8.
What's Steph averaging, even though he hasn't played he's missed a game?
Well, he's only played one game, so.
He's missed 2?
Yeah, he missed
he
game
missed 2 and 3. He's going to play 4
They
today.
won. They won game 2 without him.
Reggie Jackson, 25 in 3 games. Russ also, well, no, he's not leading turnovers. Guess who's leading turnovers per game?
He was before last game, I
James
think.
Harden.
Yeah, James Harden and Westbrook each had 5 going into
James Harden's
4.
averaging 5. Westbrook's tied with Lillard, averaging 4.3. Russell Westbrook right now, 16 assists per 48 minutes. That's huge.
Yeah, he's playing good. Now, I didn't think he shot particularly well from 2-point range.
Yeah,
his threes were good last night.
His threes the last 2 games were, like, crucial. Like, he stopped Mavs' runs in the third quarter with 2 straight threes in both Game 3 and Game 4, which is crazy because, I mean, we always talk about he probably shouldn't be shooting threes half the time. He was 3 of 13 in the home games. I think he was, like, 5 of 7, 6 of 8, something like that in Games 3 and 4.
What was he, 3 of 4 last night from 3?
3 of 4 or 3 of 5, one of those 2.
And the one he took was that quick one. That quick one in early in the shot clock. Otherwise, the rest of them.
He loves hitting threes, though, doesn't he?
Oh, they were backbreakers, though. I mean,
who loves Russell Westbrook plays more, Russell Westbrook or Enes Kanter?
Well, I think the answer is Westbrook.
I don't know. Do you watch Kanter after some of Westbrook's plays? I don't think Kanter.
Why didn't you? You didn't say who loves. You said who loves him. I'm not talking about who's the most demonstrative. I'm talking about who.
I tell you what, Russell Westbrook gets fired up when he drops a dime to Kanter, and on a pick and roll or whatever.
I'll just say this: there's a Twitter account that tweets sometimes. It's called I Heart Westbrook, and I'm not sure Enes Kanter's not running that account. That guy loves Russell Westbrook, and he should.
He's got a new lease on life, literally.
Russell Westbrook has boosted Enes Kanter's career so much.
Yeah, he's got a new lease on life, no doubt about it.
And Enes Kanter's boosted Russell Westbrook's. I mean, obviously Russell was Hall of Famer before Kanter and would have been without him, but man, there's a reason why Westbrook's assists are up and I mean, I'm not saying his turnovers are down, but how many of the passes that he throws to Enes Kanter do his big men in the past fumble away?
He's able to throw passes he couldn't dream of throwing in the past to some of the guys that he did.
Well, I mean, here's what they've done. They've gone from a combo of a really young Steven Adams and Kendrick Perkins to a combo of
a maturing
getting
Adams.
older Steven Adams and Enes Kanter. So, I mean, that's nirvana for Westbrook. And on the defensive end, it's not as good, but it's not bad because Adams is so dang good.
And Adams' hands have gotten better from the beginning of the season.
Better and better. Better and better.
Yep,
even from the beginning of the season.
And finishing ability.
Yeah, he was fumbling the ball around in the beginning of the year. Him and Serge.
The thing is,
Serge still sometimes.
The thing is, Enes doesn't only like snag these tough to grab passes, but he like immediately puts them in the hoop, like finishing at a ridiculously high rate.
You know what I like about the inside game, particularly even with Adams? The Mavericks, Carlisle's a great coach. He's taken away that pick and roll or the roll blob. I mean, they hadn't got hardly any of that down the stretch of the season. That was automatic once or twice a game. We've seen it maybe once this whole series, but they've still found a way to get Adams the ball in tight where he can score.
You know what's interesting? I mean, like I said, how much Kanter loves Westbrook, but like Westbrook, you know how short he is in press conferences, media sessions, everything.
Yeah, you're right.
When Enes Kanter comes up,
right.
he gives you great quotes. He defends him. He's still campaigning for Sixth Man of the Year.
Last
and
night, you're right.
Already been.
That's the most animated Westbrook has gotten on a question.
I really think that tells you a lot of how much he relishes playing with Kanter and how much like he appreciates what Kanter can do. And I think, Russ reads stuff, and he obviously knows the label Kanter has. And I think he's trying to say, like, look, rip his defense, but do you know how important he is to me? Like,
yeah.
I mean,
I'm with you. That's a good point. Yeah. It's a match made in heaven, no doubt about it.
And it's a strange match, but it seems to work. Kevin Durant. Shooting struggles this series.
He's frustrated. He was frustrated last night. You could tell even before the last minute he was frustrated.
Which is like, it's kind of an interesting little subplot of this playoffs because everyone is kind of watching these playoffs with this like, well, if Kevin feels like he doesn't have enough help, if he's playing really well but he doesn't have enough help, he might leave Oklahoma City. The truth of this series is like, Kevin Durant not playing that well, but he's getting an incredible amount of help.
Yeah, I've always thought that was a stupid storyline.
Not
enough help.
Oh,
I mean, this is a loaded roster. Now
they got to sweep if he doesn't go 7 of 33 in game 2.
If he goes 8 of 33 or 7 of 32, they
literally
win the
8
series.
of 33 if the 8 is that last layup.
Yeah, well there you go. But the Thunder's got some flaws. The Thunder's got some issues, but it's not talent. It's not roster holes. It's cohesion. It's finding ways to play together. Those kinds of things. It's not because they need better players around Kevin Durant. For crying out loud. I mean, they're bringing Dion Waiters and Enes Kanter off the bench. There's not a whole lot more that needs to be said. What do they want? They want I don't know. You want Jamal Crawford too? You want a whole bench of Sixth Man of the Year candidates?
You want a match made in heaven, a strange match made in heaven. Barry Trammell's a Dion Waiters aficionado.
I love Dion Waiters' game.
he's playing well.
He has played well, but he seems like the kind of guy with the kind of game that you would kind of have an aversion to.
If somebody will get out and play defense, they can pretty much just drop kick the ball, and I won't get too hard on him.
Sometimes he does plays. Just drop kick the ball.
But he usually tries on defense.
Sturdy. He's really a one-on-one defender.
Yeah, I like him. And you know what? How's this for a theory? I'm going to say that offensively, the Thunder's backup point guard is actually their fifth best point guard on the team. Randy Foye. Number one's Westbrook. Number two's Payne. Number three's probably Durant.
Waiters.
Dion Waiters is a better point guard than Randy Foye.
Yeah, he had 4 assists in the first half last night.
Foye's
he's in a bad place right now.
There's not a lot left in the tank. Although I think he's playing okay defense, but
I'm sorry, I'm a bit over that experiment.
Hit a 3 last night.
You know what? No, he did. You're right. To me, like, okay, if you don't want to play Cameron Payne, all right, I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it, but why Foye? Maybe like have Waiters play backup point. I mean, you're basically having Durant and Waiters run the point anyways. Like, Foye's not really running it a lot. I mean, sometimes he brings it up.
He plays some semblance of defense to campaigns.
Well, okay, but how about, I mean, not that Morrow's a lockdown guy, but like, man, how about giving him those minutes?
It's valid. I mean, Foy's just not playing well right now.
But it all goes back to defense. Foy is playing pretty decent defense. That's why Kyle Singer plays. That's why Foy plays.
Not anymore.
And you know what?
2 straight DMPs from Mr. Singler.
Well, it's a bad match. There's nobody for him to guard. Dallas
that's
literally has nobody for him to guard. He played in game 1 or 2, whatever. I mean, he played in both games. But Dallas has a bunch of little pesky, Raymond Felton, J.J. Barrera types. Even Darren Williams in that. He's 6'3". I mean, Kyle Singer's 6'8". Wingman. I mean, there's just nobody for him to guard.
Do you think he'll reappear in the Spurs series?
Oh, yes.
Sure. And get ready for it, Thunder fans. It's going to happen. He's going to have to spend about 3 minutes a game covering Kawhi Leonard.
Ooh. Kawhi Leonard
might be 2 fouls,
Kawhi
might
Leonard
be 3
put
fouls
him in
too.
the spin cycle last game, and one dunked on him.
Now, I think we'll see it. No doubt about it.
Is this Spurs series is it tilting more in the Thunder's favor? I'm not saying the Thunder are the favorites, but is it tilting more now from what you've seen, or does this have any bearing on that Spurs series?
I'm a little bit more confident in them just because I think the only thing I'm more confident in right now is that Enes Kanter and Dion Waiters are stepping up when they needed to step up. Like they're like I said, they're just like the moment's not too big for them right now.
And Ibaka.
Ibaka
is a spur killer.
Yes, that's a.
So if he's playing well going into the San Antonio series, that's a great.
So since the start of the playoffs, I have become more optimistic. Not like the Spurs are still the Spurs; they're always going to be the Spurs. But I just those 3 guys, those 3 really important guys, are playing. They're in a good place right now. The one place I'd be less optimistic about the Thunder. They're really going to need Kevin Durant to outplay Kawhi Leonard. And Kevin Durant's struggling right now with, against a team that doesn't really have anyone that can guard him well. I mean, Wes Matthews kind of, but that ain't Kawhi Leonard. That's not the 2-time defending defensive player of the year. And I'm a little bit worried about Durant wanting to show the world he's better than Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
And maybe not
being
able to.
How's this for the killer crossover? Going into this series, you worry more about Durant's psyche and potential losing his head
than Russell
Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook doesn't have as much to worry about going into this series as Durant. Because Tony Parker is a shell of himself.
He's going to get busy on Tony Parker.
Russell Westbrook had a severely sprained ankle, he would still out-athlete whoever San Antonio sends out there.
Now, Russell Westbrook can't be jumping in trying to get steals on LaMarcus Aldridge and leaving his man wide open in the corner. That's the stuff that bothers me.
I'm sorry, but that is like your least favorite play of the season.
Oh, gotta be. I was watching that at home. That was one of the few times I've been legitimately upset with, I've seen some crazy stuff this year, and I didn't get upset.
Well,
but I saw that as a basketball watcher. I was just like,
I'm gonna give you some life advice here. Don't be upset about stuff. Just don't get emotional about it. He does it.
Like I said, it was one time.
Right about it.
It was one time.
Don't get upset about it.
And I was watching it, and I was like, and the game wasn't over, but it was like one of the few times I was like, he might have just lost the game for them, and he might have literally just lost the game for them on that one play. And lo and behold, when you wrote your piece, you started with that scene, and I was like, thank you, Anthony, thank you. I was like, maybe I'm starting to get this whole basketball thing because I saw it. And I said, that probably lost them the game. One stinking play. I'm sorry, y'all.
I know,
I'm sorry, y'all at home.
It was like the 19th time. I feel like any time.
And the truth of the matter is, guys, I don't think Westbrook's defense has been all that great in this series.
No, it hasn't.
He's personally revived the career of Raymond Felton.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we even wrote about it one of the off days, It was bad in game 2 late. It hasn't been that great. But I think he kind of gets the sense that it doesn't have to be, and he's kind of playing that game. Dude, look, I honestly don't have that big a problem with his defense. Like yesterday, Raymond Felton got to the rim a lot, but at times he's conserving energy and some other stuff. Where I have an issue is, look, it's a tie game late. There's 40 seconds left. Get on Raymond Felton. It's a tie game with 3 minutes left. Don't let Dirk Nowitzki kind of just back screen you, and you don't do anything about it.
Now, you have been influenced heavily by Bill Donovan. You're calling him Nowitzki.
Is that not his name?
It's Nowitzki.
It is Nowitzki.
The
The W's a V.
The W, that's what people called him in the 1990s. But in the last 15 years, everybody's figured out it's Nowitzki. But then Billy Donovan come to the league, started calling him Nowitzki all series.
I have been influenced. My question is, why did that suddenly get brought up? Because I did not use his name in the last, 20 minutes.
You used it just 30 seconds ago.
Oh, I did on the back screen. Man.
You did.
Forgot
You
about
did.
that.
You
Well,
did.
to me, it's better than I hear people. You mentioned Billy Donovan. You hear a lot of people call him Donovan. Billy Donovan.
Mike Breen does that. It drives me crazy.
Well, that's got to be a New York thing.
I guess so.
Maybe
your
we're
boy.
wrong. Maybe it is Donovan.
It's your boy Mike Breen.
He's from New York.
Staying on top of things. We love Mike. We love Mike Breen.
We do love
we
Mike
really
Breen.
love Mike Breen.
Great.
He is a.
Do you see the best play-by-play guy?
Class
Tarico's really good.
ESPN's got a good group. Good group.
Yeah, give me ESPN for game production. Give me TNT for the studio. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I even like the look of ESPN's graphics and
Yeah.
it just seems like a finals type. Maybe it's because it has been the finals one, but I agree with that. I'd rather watch. Yeah, I agree with that. Okay. What else is interesting to you about this trip to Dallas, this series, everything?
Oh, I like Dallas.
I enjoyed it.
I spent extended times in Dallas and extended time in Houston this basketball season. Final Four, playoffs. Take Dallas every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Every time I go back to, I guess it's been the third time I've been to Dallas this season, and I've been impressed by its growth and just the variety of stuff to do. I don't know why I'd slept on Dallas for so long, but the traffic stinks. But other than that,
And you know what? You can get around. You
Yeah.
can
It's
navigate
not
around.
that
There's ways around
bad.
it. But it was fun. Yeah, it was a great trip. Had some good food.
How about the Mark? Was that your first Mark Cuban experience, Barry?
Oh, no, I interviewed him first when the Hornets were here.
Well, I don't even. But I mean, on the treadmill.
Yeah.
First time out on the treadmill.
All right,
yes.
explain that.
It's crazy when you get right down to it. It's like walking into a different world.
It's surreal.
It is surreal. For people, let me lay it out. The Thunder, the Maverick training facility is inside the American Airlines Center. So you go through doors and you're in the Maverick basketball offices. And then inside there you go through a door and you're in the locker room,
Yeah.
which is
It's a strange setup.
It's a strange setup.
They have great facilities, but it's set up strange to get to where you want to
Sam
go.
Presti, if the Thunder had to use that kind of setup, Sam Presti
not
would
be
be
happy.
he'd be on a gurney right now with an IV in his arm. But you go through into the locker room, then you go through another set of doors into their weight room,
And
which is a big weight room.
Yeah.
And over against the wall is a bunch of Stairmasters and other stuff.
They have a court back there too.
And yeah, you mean a practice court?
Yeah.
Yeah, down below is 2 practice courts.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's that one Stairmaster
But there's a
that's set up in front of the TV.
There's a Stairmaster in front of the TV.
That's Mark Cuban's Stairmaster.
Mark Cuban goes in and he works out like an hour and a half before every game. And he lets the media come and interview him while he's on the Stairmaster.
Sweating away.
Yeah, it's not, and this isn't some casual just thing where he's walking slowly on the stairs. He is getting it. He is getting his grind in,
really,
and he's dripping.
And
he
he's
is
a
dripping
lot
sweat.
higher than everyone talking to
it's
him.
a big Stairmaster. So yeah,
You have to you have to extend your arm all the way up, and you're still
It's
at
very
his, shoulder.
It's very symbolic because it's kind of like he's in the pulpit. And you're sticking it up at the pulpit. He's like the preacher, and he's just dripping, and he's talking shop about anything under the sun. You can throw any question at him.
He went for 15 minutes yesterday, absolutely roasted the idea of abolishing the hack and shack rule. Went into other league rule stuff, had some quotable stuff about the physicality of the series, and like I said, 15 good minutes. He's kind of he's breathing hard through his answers, but he's still giving really thoughtful answers.
yeah, and he's sweating like a big dog.
Yeah. And that's the good thing about it. We're not complaining about it at all. We're just bringing up the craziness of it's just such a strange scene to see a bunch of grown men standing under another grown man catching his beads of sweat, because I've done it before.
Yeah.
They've landed on my phone. They've landed on my hand.
And you're right, he's high. I'm 6'2", and I had my hand extended up, and I was able to rest it on the top of the Stairmaster, and I was still about a foot below his head.
And you're sitting there listening to him, and you're like, about midway through, you think to yourself, like, am I really doing this? Am I really interviewing somebody while they're dripping sweat on me? But you can't leave because it's Mark Cuban, and he's giving you gold.
Yes.
Like, he's not giving you garbage. He's giving you good stuff.
I have talked to Mark Cuban more on the record just last night than I've talked to Clay Bennett on or off the record in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And I've talked to Clay Bennett more than anybody in the media.
Yeah.
So just the dichotomy of the two franchises is hysterical.
Yeah, that plus, like, but the thing is, like, to me, in that sense, Clay Bennett is normal if you spread it across the league.
Well, yeah, you're right.
You know what I mean? Like, Mark Cuban is like the outlier, and it's a good outlier. I mean, I think it's great. We talked about it when we remember right when we left the locker room after Cuban was done talking. You're like, you know how much pressure that takes off Nowitzki, sorry, and Carlisle, like. And if Clay Bennett, this just isn't his personality, because he'd not only have to come out, but he'd have to say interesting stuff like Cuban does, and Clay Bennett or Sam Presti, they're not going to do that. But it's just really helpful to. I mean, it's just another reason the players love to play for that guy. I walk around like I'd love to be a Maverick.
Yeah, it's surprising they haven't gotten more bigger free agents in recent seasons to me, because of the passion that Mark Cuban clearly shows for his team and
the relatability, the loyalty.
And Dirk mentioned this to I think it was one of your questions, Barry, about how the organization. Who asked the question about how the organization's changed since Dirk got there? And Dirk mentioned how much better it's gotten in terms of the hotels they stay in, the
plane. Got a new plane.
Yeah.
I remember there were stories about him like the new Xbox or PS2 would come out, and he would just he'd have it in everyone's locker. They'd just suddenly have one, and he just does stuff that players are like, yeah, sweet, thanks, Mark.
He's a player's owner, no doubt about it. Now, the Thunder would tell you that they treat players well too, and I think that's true.
Yeah, there's different ways.
I don't know that the Thunder focuses on the materialistic side of life as much as Cuban does, but it's an interesting dichotomy, no doubt about it.
You want to know what's funny? The only other time I've ever seen any owner in sports, and look, I haven't covered nearly all of the teams across the league, but I've gone to a few Cowboys games, also in Dallas, obviously. The first time I covered a Dallas game, I was going to do a story on Dan Bailey. He hit a game winner, and I was just doing it for our website. And I went down to the locker room, all right, I'm going to get Dan Bailey. Okay, maybe I can get Jason Garrett. You're trying to figure out who to talk to about the story. And then I just see Jerry Jones roll in the locker room and 20 media members go up to talk to him. I was like, whoa, he's talking on the record? Oh, that's cool. And I went over and asked Jerry Jones about Dan Bailey, and he gave me this great quote about Dan Bailey. So it's just funny to me, the only two owners that you really know is visibly out there on the record are both in Dallas.
And there's a big difference. One is Jerry's availability is pretty limited to games or special.
I don't know. Every time I've been down there,
it's still more than any other owner.
But my point is, you can't go talk to him every game. You could literally go talk to Mark Cuban every single day.
I rolled up on him courtside before game 2, I think.
Yeah.
He was just sitting there next to J.J. Barea at Chesapeake Energy Arena. I was just like, hey, you got a minute? He's like, let's make it quick and dirty.
I interviewed him. The first time I interviewed him was 10 years ago when the Hornets first came to town, just in the hallway. He's waiting for the Mavs to play the Hornets. Jerry's is.
What did you do? Did you just go up to? Did you know he was that available and accessible?
Well, I'd heard. Yeah, I'd heard. He was just leaning against the wall by himself, reading a paper or something, and he couldn't have been more friendly. He was sort of businesslike last night. Of course, he's on a Stairmaster, but he was friendly in the hallway 10 years ago. But the other thing is, Jerry Jones you sort of know you're getting spinned.
Yeah.
Mark Cuban is brutal honesty. He doesn't sit there and play politics. Heck, he took a big dig at Kevin Durant last night.
Yes, he did.
Saying, hey, is the NBA going to tie his shoelaces too? So it's refreshing, and it's strange and unique, and it's one of the kooky things about covering the NBA.
It's different.
Game 5.
I'm going to say rout. I don't know if Dallas is going to have any players left.
Yeah, I don't think Measure's going to play. He was pretty good, too.
Measury may be out. Williams will be out.
Yeah,
Barea's crippled. I think Dirk's going to be punch drunk.
That seems like the kind of lay down game. Let's get to the off season from Dallas.
I mean, I just see it as and the Thunder's when the fans were last saw this team, they sucked. But now they've seen them play 2 really good games, and
they were at the airport last night.
Got some at the airport. Canners are going to be all fired up. Westbrook's going to be fired up. And unless Durant comes out and just goes 4 for 19 in the first half or something, I think we're going to see a blowout.
Agreed.
Spurs
series potentially. I assume the Spurs are going to close it out Sunday afternoon, which would be today, like a couple hours from now. Against Memphis, and then if the Thunder close it out Monday, I still don't think the series, like I said, I don't think it'll start till maybe Saturday or Sunday. We'll see, though.
I guess they could go Friday, Sunday.
I got a quick question before we leave. Because there's a chance Durant gets suspended for Game 5, but I really don't think that's going to happen. We'll see. By the time you listen to it, that decision will have likely already come down. But what's the point system in the playoffs? I should have known this before the podcast.
Oh,
because now
with
he has
technicals?
a technical and a flagrant 2.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's.
I'm gonna look up the point system.
Isn't it like 6?
Yeah, maybe, and that might already be like 3.
Yeah, I was looking at that last night and I forgot.
Well, surely he'll settle down.
Yeah, you.
Because here's the deal: they can live without him Monday night.
They cannot.
They can't live without him when they go to San Antonio.
Nope. So, all right. Well, we are actually crossing the Oklahoma border right now.
Red River.
We hit the Red
River is up, folks.
We're hitting the Red River, and we're ending the podcast.
Beautiful. That's a good-looking river there.
It's high.
Yeah, been raining a lot.
Yeah, it's true. It's higher than I've ever seen. The last time I was crossing this thing, it was dried out. All right. When will we talk to you again? Tuesday or Wednesday? One of those days. See ya.
Pull-up jumper off the rim and and the Thunder win! Come on, let's sing the Thunder song. When you hear the sound of thunder, don't you get too scared. Just grab your Thunder buddy and say these magic words.